Hey folks, Contingency Preps here, and I'm at HTF, the survival store with Paul, and we have a couple of guests with us online. We've got SkinnyMedic and Geordie Prepper. February in the Northern Hemisphere is a cold month, and we don't do a lot of outdoors work, so it's a perfect time to catch up on some other things. And we've got Geordie Prepper here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so biannually, I run an event called Check Your Preps under the hashtag Check Your Preps. It's really just what it says. It's to check your preps, but it's more than that. I've found that people coming into prepping, they may get into the prepper burnout and prepper fatigue, and I thought of the campaign really just to get people to engage with their audience and give them a bit of motivation through showing them what you're doing to check your preps, and then just encourage them to check theirs and talk about different aspects of other people's preps and see what we can do to help each other. So that's really the basis for how it came about.
That's great. And I've got to give credit where credit is due. Geordie Prepper did originate this idea, and I caught on to it last year and made a video on it because I thought it was just a great idea to use in an otherwise slow month. So Geordie, could you tell us a little bit some of the things that we should be looking for?
Yeah, really, just to not let things go stale in your preps, and also, you don't need to be a slave to your preps. You don't need to have your life revolve around them, but they do need to be ready when you need them. So, regards water and food, before any sort of emergency, you need a plan. So monitor and record your use of water. Just see how much you actually use, and do you have the amount that you use stored, or are you going to filter and purify the amount that you intend to use or which you think that you're going to use? And if the water supply goes down, what's the best source that you can readily get to safely? Do other people know about that water source? Is it secure? Can you secure it if you need to? Do others have access to it? Filtration equipment that you have, I've put it into two groups here, really, a lone wolf and a group. So if you are a lone wolf, you're probably going to go for more smaller portable solutions to make your safe water. You're going to need something which is high capacity though, such as the Sawyer Mini filter. That's quite high capacity. Pre-filtering techniques, the equipment that you've got to filter, they do have certain limitations. So do you have what you need to pre-filter your water? Do you have all the tools that you need to maintain your gear? Have you actually used the options that you've given yourself? Test them out for a week, monitor, record, and evaluate, and just see what happens, where you're able to keep up with the demand. For a group, it's obviously going to be a bit different because you're going to be serving lots of people. So you're going to be looking at larger, higher capacity filters, bigger pre-filtering. Stored water will take up a lot of space for a very large group. So can you secure it? Can you maintain operational security with it? A rain catchment, something like that. You might get into it, but then obviously people can see that you've got a rain catchment. So can you test run your solutions as a group? Can you monitor, record everything, and then you should get together with your group and just discuss, what happened, what went right, what was wrong with the solution that you've put in place already. Food, are you storing food or are you going to procure it, hunter-gathering type style? Can you sustain yourself and others? Have you actually tried it? Have you, stopped going to the shops and then, or everything's ready-made these days, but have you actually tried to get out there and forage and, maintain a good level of sustenance from it? Can you make safe, clean water? Because a lot of options tend to be dehydrated. So you got to think about the water that you're going to put into the food to rehydrate it. That needs to be safe. 20% of the water that we get is from our food. Food's very heavy. If you've got it stored and you have to bug out, you know, what have you got that's readily available to you, or do you even have something that's available? What equipment and skills do you already have? You know, think about, have you used them recently? And just monitor and record your current use and see over a week or a month what you use. You know, I think probably people will be quite surprised. Check expiry dates on your current supplies, rotate and replace, adapt if eating habits change. Such as myself, I've gone like vegan or attempting to. So, you know, if you've got a whole load of meat in your preps, you know, do you still want that there? And that's what I could think of for now. But I mean, obviously,
good stuff. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that. If we could ask SkinnyMedic just to give us a rundown on what we should be looking for when we're checking our medical supplies, Skinny.
So one of the things I like to tell people is to have multiple small kits around. I think people tend to buy these big kits, and then it's not where they're at when they need the emergency. So if you have one of those big kits, I would look at splitting it up, you know, into 5 or 6 different kits. You have one inside your house, have one in your vehicles, have one in your shop, have one in your range bag, and those bags are all differently and all designed for different purposes. So look through those things, and as we're coming on springtime, we want to make sure we look for the expiration dates and things like that. Now, I know the expiration dates kind of have like you know, things don't just quit working because they're expired, but you do want to try to keep the stuff, you know, in your vehicle in date. At least I try to keep my things in date, stuff like that, because the heat, the moisture, the humidity, things like that does affect how medicines react to us, and it does affect how effective they are. So if things are starting to get dried up, like your alcohol wipes, your betadine wipes, stuff like that, go and get those replaced and replenished in your kits. So I like to tell people to have, you know, over-the-counter medicines and prescription medications that you're going to need. You know, a lot of people have hypertension, they have high cholesterol, have diabetes, and they don't have an extensive range on those. You know, they only have a few weeks supply, or they have 30-day supply. They don't have the 30 to 60, 90-day supply, or even a year supply of their medication. And we think about, you know, these emergencies, and we always want to think about the doomsday, the end of the world, but a grid down situation could be just simply as a hurricane coming through, or, you know, a flood or an ice storm, and you can't get to the CVS to get your prescription refilled. You don't have the over-the-counter medication to take care of yourself because CVS is closed, things like that. With the recent hurricane that came through us last year, Hilton Head Island in South Carolina evacuated. They told all the residents to get off the island, and some listened and some didn't. So right before the storm hit, when 40-mile-an-hour winds hit the coast of South Carolina, the fire departments backed all the trucks out. The police department left and EMS left. So there's no first responders there to help you in this emergency because of the way the flooding was going and the wind. So you're on your own. So that my video say you never know when you'll be the first responder was it, because it was a hurricane. So, you know, looking through your packs and things like that is super important. Like I said, I think having multiple small kits is important, because what I have in my vehicle isn't necessarily what I keep in my range bag. To the gun range, I want to make sure I can stop major trauma. I can stop bleeding, things like that, where my vehicle kit may have Tylenol, aspirin, it may have, you know, a flashlight, so some different stuff in it. So having those bags that are made differently. People, they don't get the education. They don't get the hands-on training. I mean, you can watch my videos, and I appreciate that, but it's different than hands-on training. You know, you go take these classes, and you actually get hands-on training with basic first aid or trauma. That's where it really sinks in, and that's what's super important. So getting to a basic first aid class, learning CPR is important, and then taking a trauma course. You know, if you're around firearms, or you're around balls, or anything that could cause major trauma, having that ability to stop bleeding is going to be important. So, so yeah, just the medications, you know, get generic medications. Go to Walmart. I like the 99-cent bin at Walmart. You can get generic painkillers, like pain meds, stuff like that. Allergy medicine, stuff like that, all generic. Antibiotics, you can get the fish mox. There's no problem there. You can get that as you go. not a huge fan to just take them if we don't necessarily need them, but in some cases, we may need some antibiotics on hand. So, I think that's it. That's all I can think about. So, I know medical's not the sexy part of all this cool stuff. Like we want all the cool like firearms training and showing off how much food preps we have in our water systems, but everybody seems to forget about medical.
No, it's absolutely essential. And I know, as I've heard you speak on before, that you've got to check these dates on medications and understand that they're gonna lose value as time goes on, lose strength.
Exactly. They don't just a lot of people that aren't in this community feel like the moment the medication expires, they throw it away. And that's not the case. It just means that it's not as effective. So instead of taking 2 Tylenol for your headache, you may have to take 3 Tylenol for your headache or your foot, your knee pain, whatever. So they just become less effective.
Is there anything that does hit expiration date and you don't want to take it at all? Is there anything that
like aspirin, I believe, is 5 years post expiration date. It can get toxic. There's a couple of cases of like tetracycline, doxycycline, the antibiotics going toxic on you. Pins, as long as the epi is still clear, it's good. The moment it turns like a brownish color, the epi is no good anymore. So you kind of want to avoid that for your EpiPens. I know those things are really expensive right now. So.
Yeah. Okay, folks, I was just going to touch on a couple of different items that we hadn't already covered. One of them being your firearms and ammunition. If you're like me, you do have 1 or 2 firearms that you haven't even touched in a year, and it's sitting back there in the back of your safe. What you need to do and check your preps month is pull all of them out and actually get them under a bright light, because a lot of times the light of a room won't show what you need. And what you need is a very bright flashlight to look at the entire surface of that firearm, because what you might find is some surface rust, and it might start out very light, but if it's not addressed and taken care of, that's going to build up on that firearm over time, and eventually, if it goes long enough, it'll destroy the firearm. So you want to give them a good cleaning and a really good inspection. You want to look at all your ammo and make sure that it's set up to dispose of, to rotate as appropriate with your oldest first, and that it's stored properly in good sealed cans or however you choose to do it. The other thing I was going to urge you to check during this month is all of your plans, because a lot of us make plans and set them aside, and that's where they stay. And when it comes right down to it, if you whip out your bug out plan and you haven't even looked at it in 5 years, well, guess what? Along the way, they might have built a subdivision where you were going to traipse through the woods to your hilly mountaintop retreat. So you need to go review those plans, make sure your family or your group are well aware. If you have the ability to practice these plans, more the better. But I need you to go and check your routes. You need to go actually drive or hike those routes and make sure that that's all still open, or have the traffic patterns changed where now you don't want to go that way anymore because there's just going to be too much volume of people evacuating in the same direction. Something to think about. Also, caches. If you have caches, you might not want to just dig them up, but you want to go and observe your caches. And what I mean by this is you want to get to within sight of your cache and perhaps use some strong optics that you can check the area real good to make sure that nobody's around. You might be able to see through the optics if the place looks undisturbed, or you might actually have to walk up on it. But you don't want to give away the cache while you're there, so be careful of that. But you do want to check your cache locations and ensure they haven't been disturbed. If they've been disturbed, you don't want to rebury on that same spot. You want to move out to a different location. So just some things to keep in mind. Paul?
Check hardware and gear. Go through your bag. Make sure your straps and everything are in good shape. I know some of these bags get really heavy, and if you take them out and actually work with them many times a year, you'll start seeing some wear and tear on the straps and actually the pull points. So check those types of things out. Check seams, fuel. If you're storing any types of fuel, either for cars or vehicles or for heating or anything like that, make sure you're rotating. This is a good time to start rotating your fuel reserves. I know gasoline and diesel have different rotation points, so make sure you're doing that. Make sure you've got a good stock of wood and charcoal and coal if you're using those types of things for heating. It's a good time. Always a good time to make sure you got the wood for heating, but check that. Check your tools. Go through any sharp tools. It's a good time to sharpen your knives, sharpen any cutting surfaces that you have, shears or anything like that you have in your kits. Sharpen and oil those. Even your fire starting tools. If you've got a fire starting kit, which most people do, go through your kit, make sure that it's all in good shape. If you've got lighters, they're fueled, make sure the flunts are good, still working order. And even ferro rods, make sure if you use ferro rod a lot, make sure it's not too worn down and needs replacing. Check your car. Make sure your car is in good working order, good tires, oil change as you should, on time. Make sure everything's working there. If you've got to get out of Dodge using your vehicle. Batteries and flashlights, batteries and any other equipment. Make sure you're storing those correctly. Make sure you're rotating those out at this time. You don't want them getting corroded on the inside of your electronics. And then one thing, if you don't already have a list for equipment, kind of like the list right here. If you don't already have a list for all your kit, whatever kit it is, or your plug-in situation, make a list and use that as a check device. And now is a good time to make it now, so the next year come around, anything you've depleted, anything you've used, you can check that too. Personal items, make sure if you're using your toothbrush and everything in your personal kit, your hygiene kit, replace your toothpaste, change out your toothbrush. All those kinds of things are also important to do with your kits. You may not use it as often as the one in your kitchen, your bathroom counter, but might be time to replace that too. So it's just a good time to check everything, look it all over, make sure it's clean, make sure it's usable, make sure it's ready to go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, gents. I appreciate the time, and I think folks can really benefit from just taking this slow time of the year and going through and taking care of this. Geordie,
Absolutely.
Anything to add, Geordie?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, what SkinnyMedic was saying about first aid training, it really is very important to learn, just the basics of CPR. And, his channel and, him himself are the reason that I did my first aid course. And, you can learn from people and you can be inspired by others, to do things that can help yourself and others. So, thanks to SkinnyMedic for being around and, being that inspiration on that side, for me and many others. And, you yourself, for supporting, check your preps and everything. And, you can get burnt out from prepping and you can get fatigued. And I didn't really see many people, continuing to get people to check the preps. And, it's just something to kind of readdress that. And it's a big learning experience when I'm doing it, and the input that you get back from things is sometimes it's like revelationary when you think about it, in regards to your preps, and you completely throw things out the window because it's no good anymore just because somebody offered a better solution that's specific to you, and you've built it into your preps afterwards.
Yep, most definitely. SkinnyMedic, anything to add?
No, like Geordie was saying, just staying focused. Like my wife and I were talking about, we get slack sometimes on our medical or not medical preps. We've got medical covered. It's the food preps. Yeah, we've got the medical down. We got that 1,000 4x4s, in arm's reach. We're good. it's our food preps. Like that's one of the things we want to focus on. We set the New Year goal, 2017. We want to focus more on food preps, stuff like that. So we've gotten slack on that area. So we're going to focus that. So just kind of using this month to refocus, set goals. You don't have to go out and buy everything today, but just set goals and take baby steps with it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks. Paul, anything else?
No, just have fun with it. It is important, but it is also important to have fun with it as well. But also involve the family too. So don't just check your own preps; check your family's preps as well.
Yeah, get them involved. Definitely.
And one thing that you mentioned about the things, we just got through the holidays, and holidays is a time when families get together, either Thanksgiving here or Christmas and things. Those are also a good time to sit down with family and talk about what the actual plans are. Sure. So that was something that I wanted to mention.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, everyone. Thanks for your time and stay safe.